and start recording. Okay. All right, guys. Hey, it is Tuesday Talk once again. I am Stephanie Fish, and I am here live at Swag's Sports Shoes South, out here by Iroquois Park. A lot of you guys might remember coming out here when we were doing our in-person group training runs. So in case you haven't been out here in a while, they have changed their entire setup. So make sure you stop back out here and take a look. So again, another Tuesday Talk, and we're going to be talking about shoes and some gear for some cold weather and some rain and blistering and all of those things that we need as we increase our mileage. So just a couple housekeeping things. You guys are all muted, and we are recording this. So we are going to post it later in the Facebook group. So if you're missing it right now, you can always watch it later, or if you need to duck out early for work, totally get it. You can watch it later. Now, number one thing, there is a Q&A section right in the bottom of your screen there. Put all of your questions in there. As we're talking, as we're going through, please use that Q&A section to ask your questions, and then we'll get to them later on in our session. So without further ado, again, I'm here at Swags, and I'm here with Allie. Allie Vincent, a longtime Swags employee, 13 years to be exact. And fun fact, her first race was actually the KDF Mini when she was in 5th grade. So you won it, right?
No.
You didn't. Can you win your age group?
I don't even remember that, but I just remember it being fun, and that's what got me into running. So
Yeah. So she started in 5th grade there. She ran cross country and track all the way through college. Graduated from Lincoln Memorial University. Where is that?
It's in the Cumberland Gap in Tennessee.
Tennessee girl. All right. With a degree in exercise science and in business management. So she has all around. And she's also, of course, on the Swags Elite Racing team, which you may have seen out there, probably flying by you in all races. So welcome.
Thank you.
Sure. All right. So without further ado, we're going to talk about some shoes. You may see that we have a variety of shoes here. And I don't really know a whole lot about shoes. I just buy shoes and wear them and run in them. And Allie tells me what to buy. So I'm going to let her talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so that's why we're here. So the first and most important thing when going to train for a race, or even if you're not training for a race, but I know most people on this platform are, is to get fitted for a good pair of shoes. It's not a requirement for you to know anything about them. Like Stephanie said, she goes into a running store and she gets fitted. And that's kind of the nice thing about it, is you can go in and trust that the person helping you is a professional and knows what they're looking for to better serve you and better help you when you're training. So when you go into a store, everyone has different kind of ways of doing it, but what we do here at Swags is we'll have you come in, we'll ask you some questions such as what are you training for? What's your goals? Are you going to be running more on roads or on trails? Are you going to be doing more fast stuff like tempo work or track workouts? Or are you going to be doing more longer runs? Or are we doing a combination? Because all of that goes into the types of shoes that we're looking for. Then what we're going to have you do is we're going to have you slide off your shoes, and we're going to watch you walk barefoot. And what we're looking for in that, we're looking at mainly your feet and ankles to see if you pronate, which means the ankles roll in and there's some flex in the arch area, or if you supinate. And so that's when your ankles roll out, kind of makes that soup bowl. And so there's different types of shoes for different types of feet, body types, activities, all of those things. And so every shoe that we carry at Swags, it's a phenomenal shoe. We handpick them all. We don't carry anything we don't believe in, but just because it has a high price tag or that we have it on the wall doesn't mean that it's the best shoe for you. So that's why it's important to be fitted. So I have some examples. There's 3 types of basically categories when it comes to support. And so I have an example of each of this here, and I'll move a little bit closer so you can see them a little bit here. But your first category is your neutral cushion category, and that is for someone who has a higher, more rigid arch, more supinates, and doesn't necessarily need that stability underneath the arch. Doesn't mean that it doesn't have support. It just doesn't have that structured support underneath the arch. So here's an example of one here. I'll move a little bit closer so you can see, but this is a neutral cushion shoe. So this in here by Saucony, but every brand has them. So that's the reason why there are different brands. If everyone could run in one brand, then we wouldn't have however many we have, right? So then we move up to moderate stability. And moderate stability is for someone who pronates slightly. That ankle moves, there's some slight ankle movement there, where you have a lower arch. So a lot of the times when people pronate, they have a lot of more like knee, hip, and lower back issues because everything is connected, right? Your feet are your foundation. And so when there's that flex in the arch, that puts a lot of pressure on all of those joints, muscles, bones, all of that. So that's why we would go to a moderate stability shoe. So here's an example here of one, and they use the J-frame technology, and that is their support system. But every brand has something different. So you may have dual density posting, but it's going to give you that guided stability all the way through to help with that pronation. And like I said, that's when your arches kind of fall, or you have that flex in the arch there. So then you have those people who have more flatter feet or have severe overpronation. And that is going to be our third category, and this is your high stability. So it's going to have more of a flatter base through here. It's not going to be as cut away, and then you're going to get more support through here. So if you feel a shoe and you go into a store and just kind of want to know what it's like, if you push through here, it's going to be more firm for further than other shoes. So if it's a neutral shoe, this is going to be a softer EVA through here. But a high stability shoe, you're going to feel that there's a different density all the way through here until you get up here. So that's just kind of a way of knowing when it comes to more road shoes. And these are all your road shoe categories.
So it looks like we're seeing a lot of different brands here. Are there better brands for different types of issues?
So not necessarily. And it's really, when you come in and asking those questions, what kind of feel do you like? Because every brand is phenomenal. Like I said, what I like and what you like could be completely different. So knowing what you like, for me personally, I like a shoe that's a little bit more firm. So Hoka, for example, great shoes, but they're known for being really plush and soft. And it's not that I don't like them, but I just don't love them. So for me to do my everyday training in this, it's just going to be too soft for me. But other people love them, especially for long run days. But like what we like to say is there's not one brand better than the other, but we're going to have different preferences.
And then you might hear a lot of people talk about, oh, well, I have a such and such drop. I don't know if beginners really need to get that specific on what their drop of their shoe is, but explain to us what a drop means.
Your drop from your heel to your toe and the amount of material that's underfoot. And so, for example, this shoe, Saucony, they do either 4 millimeter drop or 8 millimeter drop, which means there's a difference from here to here, either 8 or 4. Most standard training shoes are going to be, well, depending on your brand, 5 to like a 12. And in the past, probably like 10 years ago, most everything was 10, 12. But then we got into more of that minimalist phase, and things were starting to get lower and lower. Kind of knowing your body, but most training shoes are going to be 5 and up, but mainly your 8 and up range. Hoka is unique that all of their shoes across the board are 5. So that's one thing in knowing that, but they have a lot more underfoot. So just because it's a 5 millimeter drop difference doesn't mean that there's less underfoot. They have a higher stack height. So then just knowing how it feels. And like I said, this one has 8. A lot of these shoes will have like 4 or lower, and these are more of our racing type shoes. Yeah, so this is more of a racing flat. And so this is your day of, or maybe if you're, and I'll get a little bit closer. This is more of your day of, like race day shoe, or if you're doing track workouts, you would warm up in a training shoe, but then wear these for the faster time whenever you're doing that speed work. And so that just allows and helps with turnover and stuff, but those are more race day shoes and then workout shoes. I also brought over some trail shoes over here. So
days, trail running. I always tell you guys that if you're getting a little bored on the road and you want to start adding in some trails, a little more scenic. It's going to work all those different muscles that maybe you're not constantly pounding on when you're on the road. So trail running is really good cross training. And if you're going to do trail running, it is probably best to maybe get a pair of trail shoes. So we got a couple samples here.
Yeah, so I have a few examples. And what's different about a trail shoe and a road shoe? If you see here, the grips are larger here. So the lugs are bigger, which means if it's muddy or if the terrain is uneven, you're going to get better grip through here. Some of them do have the capabilities to where you could screw in some ice picks, which honestly lately would be great for the roads. But hopefully we're done with that. But who knows? We'll talk about that. Right, we'll get to that. But that just helps with that. And they do have rock plates in them. So I don't know for you, but if you've ever ran on a trail in road shoes and you step on gravel or rocks or roots, you can feel that. Yes, and you can feel that. So that's why they put the rock plate. Doesn't mean it's going to be hard when you land, because I also think the ground is more forgiving. There's still great cushion in there, but that's just going to prevent that whatever you step hit on your forefoot. You're not gonna feel like you're getting bruised or like you hurt something, because that's in there to protect you.
Guys, use that Q&A section. I mean, I'm going to start coming up with questions that I think of, but I would love to hear from you. If you're watching us live right now, put some questions in the Q&A. I did just think of a question. Let's say I came in and I said, hey, I know that I am a heel striker. I'm gonna go that way first instead of a toe runner, because there's probably more heel strikers than there are toe runners. I know I'm a heel striker. What do you suggest? Because all that heel striking is really hurting my body.
Right, so we look at that, take that into consideration, but we also look at your mechanics when you're walking, and then we also have you run in the shoes if you're comfortable. If you want to go out on the sidewalk, run around in the store. It's a running store, so run all around. But we'll take that into consideration. So that may be something to where we go with a lower drop to then push you more on your forefoot. But we also have to make sure that it doesn't change your mechanics too significantly at first, because you run how you run. And so if we're not being careful as we're changing it, then that's how some injuries can occur. So we'll take all that into consideration. And sometimes we'll start with shoes that are more of that 10, 12 millimeter. And then your next time we may go to an 8, and we'll gradually get you down to that 5 or 4 drop. But it's not something that we went from a 10 and then we went down to a 4 or even 0. We do carry Ultra, which is a 0 drop shoe. You just have to be more careful with that. And for beginners, we typically start with more of that 8 to 12, because that's your standard, like your drop.
Yep. Before we move on to some gear, socks, guys, socks, so important. I mean, I know some of you guys might be putting on these really thin, no cushion socks to go run, and you're like, I don't understand why I have blisters. Well, that's why. So invest in some good socks, at least 1 or 2 pair to wear on your longer runs, so your feet will thank you and you can avoid those blisters. It'll also alleviate some of that just pounding. I mean, your shoes are one thing, but your socks are another. So best pair of socks.
Well, and it just all depends on what you like. Say if you are someone who likes a thinner sock or more compression, Swiftwick is a great example of that. It's thinner through here, but it doesn't mean that it's paper thin. You still have some cushion underfoot, but it's not going to be as thick as some of our other options. Say you have a wider fit and you're like, I already get wide with shoes, but if I add that thicker sock, it's just going to be too tight. So Swiftwick is a great option. Come in multiple heights, just depending on how you like your socks, but great option. And they're, yes, we have some over here. So they're all moisture wicking, and that is the most important part. Swag always likes to say that cotton is rotten, and he's right. So if you run in cotton socks, then what happens is it keeps the moisture on your foot, which then creates friction, which then creates blisters. Right, so we don't want that. So investing in good socks is very, very important. Another brand that we do really well with is Belega. And these, yes. And they're just thicker underfoot, so you get more padding here. They're still thinner on top, so you're going to get great. People are like, well, no shoes for me don't work because they slide down into my shoe eats it. So if you have this and this little tab here, it doesn't go down in the shoe, so it's meant to prevent that for you. So great example here. And then I also brought over some compression socks. So if you are someone who, if you struggle with maybe shin splints or just calf tightness, these are great. Or if you're traveling a lot, great to have these on when you're on an airplane, stuff like that. But they're a little bit thicker through here, but it's going to help with circulation. So if you struggle with that, do this. And even for me, I was out of town this weekend, was spending 5 hours in a car, and I'm like, when I get there, I want to feel fresh and ready. So I just put on some compression socks, wore them for my drive, and I felt better than when I wouldn't wear them.
Yeah, compression socks are not just for 80-year-old people, okay? Like, they're great for while you're running. I think they're great for recovery.
Yeah.
So just keep those in mind. All right, so moving into more gear stuff. That was our shoe section. So if you guys thought of any questions while we were talking about the shoes, put them in there. We'll talk about it. I'm going to switch camera view, talk a little bit about gear. Come along with me. All right. So we obviously have been running in a variety of different weather. Today is a beautiful day, but 5 days ago, if we get another snowstorm, what do you wear?
Okay, so the important part of that is layering, but not layering to where you feel like you're just running down and you feel like you're 40 pounds heavier, right?
Like a kid from Christmas Story. You don't want to be like that.
Right, exactly. So we want to make sure and invest in key pieces that are going to make us feel better throughout our run. And that's something that we try to explain to our customers. Yes, some of this stuff is pricey, but if you can invest in 3 good pieces, you're only wearing 3 things instead of 5 things to keep you warm. So we always suggest starting with the base layer. And that's just something that is going to be maybe a little bit more snug on body. So then that way, it's got the wicking material, but it's going to be right touching your skin. So we start with something like this up top.
So notice she's saying we want that wicking dry fit material on the skin. You don't want to put a cotton t-shirt right on your skin.
Right. We want to keep you warm, and we want this to wick that moisture so it doesn't cause you to become cold later. So then we can go a few routes just depending on how cold it is. A lot of the times I will wear a base layer, but then put a vest over top. I think a vest is the most undervalued piece of equipment.
I love a vest so much, and everybody makes fun of me for wearing vests because I look like a giant dork. But if my armpits can breathe, my arms can move, I can just unzip it if I get hot, zip it back up if I get cold. The vest is where it's at, people.
Yes, I agree, because if you have a jacket, you oftentimes get so hot, so quick, but then you have this. So this has the wind blocking layer on top, which is nice. So if it's really windy out there, then it's not just cutting through. And then the back is the wicking material, but it also has their heat material. So when you sweat, it's going to use your sweat to then keep you warm. It's not going to cause you to sweat more, but it's going to generate that heat to keep your body warm instead of getting back and realizing how cold you really are.
I think I'm going to buy this when this is over. I just looked at the tag. I was like, yep, I'm going to buy it.
Yeah, it's so nice. And then another way, if you wanted to go to a jacket, this is paper thin, but you'd be shocked how warm it is.
So that might be good for rain.
Yes. So
We also might run in some rain. We're getting into the rain season now.
Yes. So looking at stuff like this, the good thing is it's nice and bright. So if you run early mornings, late at night, we're not really late these days, but we're getting to that spring forward season. But this is really nice because even when it was 30 degrees outside, I wore this base layer and just this. Didn't have to worry about anything else. Almost got kind of hot. So I could have maybe worn my vest, but I got down to even 20 degrees wearing this and still feeling good. It's got nice and reflective pieces on the back as well. But the nice feature about it is it folds up into this pocket.
Oh.
And so if you do get hot, you can just tuck it in there and then put that around your arm. But this works great if you're traveling for races. Hopefully one day soon we'll be able to do that. So it makes it easy for packing and stuff.
And also, a side note, I don't know, the rule of thumb I always thought was, let's say it's 40 degrees outside, you're going to go for a run. You should dress like it's 60 degrees. Everyone always told me dress like you're just going for a walk and it's 20 degrees warmer. Is that true?
Yeah, we say 10 to 20 degrees, just depending on how warm or cold nature you are.
Oh,
You know your
I'm
body.
always cold, so yeah.
Yeah, so you know your body and what you like, but it's easier. You don't want to overdress because then you get out there, and then especially if you have a long drive back to wherever you're going, home or work, whatever the case may be, you're going to get cold fast. So when it comes to layering for your legs, women, I've got a few different options, and guys, we have half tights and stuff. But depending on how cold, if you wear some compression shorts, either 9-inch or for guys, or the longer biker shorts for women, you can wear this.
I'm not wearing those just like that. There's no way.
So you just wear compression underneath, and then put your tights on over top.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah. So this is when it's cold outside. Just having that there will really help, especially if it's windy. And then if it's really cold, say like last week cold, you could have your pair of tights, but also wear some capri tights on underneath, or wear your tights and then wear some looser fitting pants over top. So you cut away the wind, and then this way you still have something tight on body to then pull that moisture, keep you warm, but you have another layer over top. So it's really helpful. You have to layer, even having good apparel. This one is fleece lined, but still you can't go out in this and run 10 degrees. You're going to get back and you're going to be as red as like.
That's when you go and you get in the shower after you run, and all of a sudden your quads are bright red because it was 10 degrees outside, and then you got in an 85-degree shower. So that hurts. It hurts.
Yes. And it can't be good for you. So this is why we layer up. So having those key pieces, stuff like this, is really helpful.
And then the biggest thing we've been recently talking about, which I hope we will never need again this year, the tracks.
Yeah. So tracks, Get a Grips. Honestly, those are lifesavers. And I'm not just saying that to sell something, but they really are helpful. I was able to run at Iroquois Park last week and not have to worry. So it's just that worry-free, because when you're running and it's icy or snowy and the whole time you're just going slow because you're worried about that next step, I didn't have to worry about that next step. And we sold a ton of them, and people were just coming in and out. I was at the park. I'm like, here, take these. You make me nervous, and not just, even if you're watching this and maybe you have some elderly parents or know some elderly people. My granny was stubborn and always had to go to the paper box. And so we would put them on some old shoes of hers and just put them on there so she could walk safely, and we didn't have to worry about it.
And then real quickly, just to get on the safety part, the safety aspect again, if you guys are running super early or super late, we do want to hit just real quick on a couple reflective things. We have the vest here. Well, here, I'll let you chat about it
We
here.
have some different stuff here, and it just depends on, back and forth here. Just depends on what you like. So we've got vests that are light up. They have either strobe capabilities, all one color, different colors, but these are really, really helpful, have pockets in them. And then you have your little clip-on lights that have different settings. So you can just clip those onto your shoes, on the back, on your shirt, on your hat, on your dog. You have a dog that you're running with on the leash. We want to make sure they're safe. They're going to be in front of you, and oftentimes cars don't see them. So putting these on them is really helpful. Headlights, so you can see where you're going. Not only does it help you see where you're going, but people see you with that light on.
Yep. You always want to be seen out there, guys. You want to make sure you're staying safe. Another last final hit here. Well, almost second to last. Blisters. If you're having trouble with blisters, rubbing in various areas of the body. I'm just a good old Vaseline girl, but some people like to get fancy with some body glide. So it does work. It does save you.
Very beautiful. And when it comes to blisters on your feet, a lot of the times there's different factors. So it could be your socks. If you're wearing cotton socks, your risk of blisters are higher, like we talked about earlier. And making sure your shoes fit properly. But if you were fitted for shoes, they should be. Another thing to note, the warmer the temperatures get, the higher your risk of blisters are, because you're going to be sweating more. So just know that. Make sure we're getting those shoes nice and snug. Maybe switch to a thinner sock then if it's really hot. If you know that your feet sweat a lot, then your risk of blisters are going to be a little bit higher. But this stuff really does work.
Okay. And then a big thing I want to hit on, in case you guys aren't aware, KDF is actually going to have self-service water stations on the route, which means there will not be people out there having little cups of water and handing you water as you run by. You need to be prepared to have something on your person to fill up with water. So handheld water bottles, we have a couple options here. Water belts, water vests, water backpacks. You're gonna wanna find one that works for you. I'm a fan of the handheld. I know a lot of people like to jog with the belts.
We've got a few examples here. I'll come a little bit closer. But it just depends on how much you think you need. We have all different types of sizes, bottle sizes, belt sizes, but we also have a spy belt where you can just make any belt like one for hydration. So it's all personal preference, comes back to shoes, but we have different ones. So come look at them. We can talk it through with you and just see what you really are going to need. If you're doing a full versus doing a half, it's going to be different. So come and just ask us questions. We're here to help.
Yep. So you definitely want to look at what's going to work for you on that water refill station. But make sure you're prepared for that, because I don't want you to get out there running 13 or 26 miles with no hydration. That would really suck. So I just want to hit up one Facebook question, and then I'm going to move to this. Looks like I got a bunch of questions down there. So Phyllis, hi Phyllis, on Facebook group, asks, what's the most important aspect when choosing shoes when dealing with knee pain?
With knee pain. So first we need to figure out, why are we dealing with the knee pain? Is it an old injury? Is it maybe the mechanics? Are we pronating? Are we supinating? So it's not necessarily a one shoe fix all. I can't say, oh, this shoe is going to be the shoe for you. But looking at those things, I'll be able to make a suggestion. Looking just at shoes in general that has more cushion underfoot, so that way we have better shock absorption, typically helps if you have a lot of knee pain, so that every time you're hitting the ground, you're getting a little bit more bounce back from that. But looking at all of those things, then we'd be able to help you.
And you also, it's something I missed. Let's bring out a pair of old shoes here. Check your shoes. Allie's going to show you here what an old pair of shoes with too many miles on them might look like.
Yes. So you may see the sole and be like, oh, they look fine. You look at the shoe and like, oh, it's in good shape. I still have 100 more miles on them. But that's not necessarily the case. If you take your shoes and you are able to bend them like this, that's telling me that all the cushion is gone out of that forefoot. So even though they look great, your body is suffering because of it. Look at a brand new shoe. And I'm going to hit that here. See, there's like no flex. It hasn't been worn, obviously. That is what your shoe starts out with. And then that one's just flexing real easily. So your body will tell you when you're starting to need a new pair of shoes. You'll start having aches and pains that you don't typically have. Exactly.
It'll all just shoot down.
For sure. And we typically suggest shoes last about 300 to 400 miles. 300 of great, and then they start going on the downside. And so you really want to pay attention to that. Bring your shoes in. We'll take a look at them and tell you. We won't just say, oh, you need a new pair of shoes because we want to sell you some, but we'll really look at it and say, you have about 50 more miles on them, and then we'll ask questions. How's your body feeling? Pay attention to it. There's apps, if you will use Strava or the Garmin app or different stuff like that, you can plug in when you got a new pair of shoes. Because oftentimes we just think, oh, we just got them, but it's been like 6 months and we've trained for a full race and we're starting on another one. So we really have to pay attention to it because time flies.
I'm gonna look at some questions we got here. Let me bounce down in here and get super close. All right, who do we have on here with us? Let's see. Nathan asks, should you own more than one pair of shoes and rotate daily to allow the shoes to recover between each run, especially for higher mileage folks?
Absolutely. Especially if you're doing higher mileage and having different types of shoes. I would suggest if, say, you always train in, like, your main shoe is, for me, is the Asics 2000. Well, I don't want to have 2 or 3 pair of Asics 2000s. I want to have different shoes. So I'll have that shoe and I'll have another shoe, a different brand, because that will change the stress on your body and giving yourself a break. And then also, if you're doing and training for higher mileage, you're probably implementing more speed work. And maybe you're doing some trail running or different stuff like that. So what I would suggest is having like a lightweight trainer or like a shoe that has more cushion for your longer run days. But making sure we get different shoes to change the stress on your body.
Yeah, okay. And then it looks like we have a question about gear, about carrying your iPhone for music. Everybody needs their music while they run. So, she's gonna go run, get something, show you a couple options. I know there's some people like it on the waist, some people like it on the arm, some people carry it in a side pocket in their tights or their shorts. So yeah, I mean, she's gonna grab something there and see what we got. If you guys have any more questions, we are about done here. Throw them out there.
So I have a few examples here. It just depends on what you like. I know Stephanie was saying you can do arms. So this is more of an armband. There's different ones for different types of phones. And so as phones update, then we'll have the newest versions. So if you're more of an armband person, if you are more of a belt person, you can slide this one in here, but also use it for other things. There's 2 different compartments. So
Snacks.
Yes, snacks, all those things that you need. Or you can just use a typical, like a standard belt here that you, and you can use this for anything, not just running. Say you're going to a theme park or something like that. It stretches, but it's not bulky. So you don't have to worry about it when you're running or if you're just out and about, that it's just huge.
And if that bothers you, you can also kind of tuck it in your pants in case it starts bouncing. Because I know I have that issue, so I'll wear one of those, but then I'll tuck it in my pants, so then that bouncing doesn't happen. So.
Absolutely.
Okay, lots of stuff here, guys. Before we sign off, I just want to do a quick circle of the new store in case you haven't been out here. I'm just going to show you a few things. So we're in the shoe section here, and then you can see they really open this up in here. And so again, this is Swag South out here near Iroquois Park, where we used to do a whole bunch of in-person group runs, and hopefully we will again soon. But in the meantime, we're here for you. Allie's here for you. Thank you for all the information. Really good, great information. If you guys have any more shoe questions, post them in the Facebook group, and we will take care of you. So next week, our Tuesday talk, we're going to talk more about injuries. Injuries might still be creeping in, so we're going to talk more about injuries and the importance of rest days. A lot of you guys kind of feel guilty when you take a rest day, and you shouldn't. Rest days are amazing, and you should actually take advantage of them. So we're going to talk about the importance of them with Dr. Jeff Stevenson next Tuesday at noon. Make sure you pre-register, and if you have any questions or you need anything, you guys know where to find me. Thank you, Allie.
Thank you.
And
Good luck with your training.
we're going to sign out.